Hello. Different camera today. Having a little issue, but everything's fine. We're all fine here. How are you? Uh, let's see if I can do something there. All right. How are you, Christian? Literally.
I'm
How are
doing
you?
really well.
Good.
My camera's working, so that's good.
Oh, don't need to brag. No, that's fine. That's good. I'm
My
really glad your
camera
camera's
works
working, to be
fine.
honest.
Yeah,
That would be even worse. Are you ready to do a show?
I am ready to do my second DTNS.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. And thank you for being willing to come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fun. I love it.
All right, here we go.
You can help support the Daily Tech News Show by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/AgeTheText or bit.ly/help DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, February 2nd, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Christian Cantrell, sci-fi author and tech writer. He's been on the show before, and we are super glad to have him back. How you doing, Christian?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me back. You know, I realized that this appearance doubles the number of appearances that I've had on your show. So
Yeah, you could report a 100% increase in appearances on your next quarterly report.
that's right. That's right.
Well, excellent. We got some wearables to talk about, some Pebble news, some Apple Watch news. But let's start off with the headlines. A new Raspberry Pi is here. Still $35, but packed with more power. Ars Technica reports the Raspberry Pi 2 looks close to the Model B Plus in form factor, but has 4 USB ports, more GPIO pins, a micro SD slot instead of the regular SD slot. The 2 also runs a 900 megahertz quad-core processor. It's an ARM v7. That means you can run Ubuntu Core and even Windows 10 if you don't want to run Raspbian for some reason. Microsoft is going to offer Windows 10 free to Raspberry Pi owners later this year, and Ubuntu Core, obviously. They're going to want you to run that as well. The 2 is the new Model B, so it replaces the old Model B. The Model A Plus, the $20 model, remains available for now, and they didn't have anything to say about a new Model A, at least not right now. Excited about this, Christian? Because the rest of the internet is.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've already ordered mine. What I love about the Raspberry Pi is that it's an affordable computing device that's not iOS and it's not Android. And I love iOS and I love Android, but we need people around the world to get into computing for what computing actually is, not this sort of sanitized, very simple version of computing, and which is all great, but the Raspberry Pi is a real thing, real computing, and I'm really glad to see that people can get into it affordably.
Yeah, and the fact that it didn't increase in price, I mean, everybody would have loved a little price decrease, but $35 still not bad. Quad-core processor, people are going to be very excited about that. And I'm sure there's going to be mixed feelings about Windows 10, but it's better to have another option, especially a free option. I applaud Microsoft for being willing to say, hey, you know what? We want people to make things with our operating system. That's where the future lies.
Yeah, and for people who are using Mac and have to test things on Windows, I mean, it's a really affordable way to set up test machines. I mean, the more, the better.
EverQuest has broken free of Sony, as the company announced it has sold its Sony Online Entertainment games division to investment management firm Columbus Nova. This is going to confuse some people. They're going to think, oh, is that the PlayStation people? Is that the movie people? No, it's just the MMORPG people. The Next Web reports the division has actually been renamed to Daybreak Game Company. The company will continue to produce MMORPGs like EverQuest or H1Z1 while embracing the multi-platform world, which means you might get some of their games for Xbox now that they're no longer owned by Sony.
Yeah, so I mean, all I'll say is that I'm just a little sad to see Sony kind of divesting a little more of itself, every month, or so. Yeah, I come from this area of Sony dominant, or this era of Sony dominance, and it's I used to go to the Sony store at the Metreon. I used to have this little Sony picture book I used to sit in my cube and program on, and I have any? I have a Sony TV. It's the only Sony device I have now, and so when I love that they're focusing, which is really, really critical to their survival. But it's kind of sad to just see all the Sony devices in my life and games in this case just kind of go away.
Yeah, it is what Sony has been signaling they were going to do, which is to divest themselves of underperforming units or units that don't synergize. So I get what you're saying about the passing of an era, so to speak. But it's probably a wise choice. It's probably going to be great for EverQuest players and H1Z1 players, and it's probably going to be good for the game. It's probably going to be good for everybody, is what I feel like. And it's not such an earth-shattering thing as we're getting rid of our phone division or our game console division or our movie division or something like that. This one makes a little more sense to me.
Yeah, at least we still have the PlayStation.
Yeah. The Verge interviewed Pebble CEO Eric Mijakovsky, who said Pebble shipped its 1 millionth watch on December 31st, and as Android Wear grows, an Apple Watch is getting ready to arrive in April. Mijakovsky says Pebble has found a new framework, these are his words, found a new framework to use as an interaction model on the watch. And he said apps will no longer be the main focus on the platform, saying it doesn't look like what is on your smartphone. Christian and I are going to talk about that in relation to some Apple Watch news a little later in the show. Intel doesn't want to get left out of the Internet of Things market. Kind of missed out on mobile at first. They're clawing their way back in right now. So this time, Intel is buying its way in. Reuters reports Intel has agreed to buy German chipmaker Lantique for an undisclosed sum. In addition to chips for network devices, Lantique also produces chips for networking connections, mobile broadband, and Wi-Fi. The deal is still subject to regulatory approvals and processes, although terms of the sale have not been disclosed. The estimates are around $280 million for the transaction. So a good move by Intel to position themselves for the Internet of Things maybe a little better by taking an existing division. This is an Infineon division, if you've followed them through their various forms, that's already making Internet of Things chips, and so they've got a leg up now. Washington Post reports the U.S. FCC will consider a draft decision this week to intervene against state laws in Tennessee and North Carolina that put legal limits on internet service operated by cities, municipalities. You hear it talked about as municipal internet a lot. The decision is expected to say that laws limiting municipal internet prices or geography or limit them in other ways like that inhibit timely and reasonable deployment of high-speed internet. And the FCC can enforce that under Section 706 of the Communications Act, which mandates them to help spread internet widely and make it easy to roll out. The draft decision will be followed by a vote on February 26th, the same day as an expected vote on open internet guidelines.
Yeah, so this is potentially very good news. I mean, hopefully this will be precedent. Hopefully we'll see we'll see a decision like this impact many other cities and states and eventually users. I guess the one question I have about this is, like, I kind of wonder if this is something of like a bargaining chip in the whole sort of net neutrality debate. I mean, I wonder if it sort of give a little here and take a little there. And I certainly hope not. I hope this is just, a completely independent decision that's made for the right reasons. And then we see the next decision, that is completely independent of this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories out today basically saying that, the FCC is starting to signal that they're going to go Title II, or at least some version of Title II later this month on February 26th. I feel like we're going to get this municipal draft first and have that circulated. That way, because I think this one could take more heat, actually. And when I say take more heat, I mean it can survive a little more heat than the net neutrality, which that's at a fever pitch right now. So when that vote comes on February 26th, we're going to have a lot of fights over it, essentially.
Yeah.
Reuters reports Japan message app company Line is launching online grocery delivery in Thailand. Line's second biggest market after Japan is Thailand. Line's service will be offering products like water, coffee, instant noodles at up to 50% discounts and free delivery for shoppers. The service will compete against similar service that already exist in Thailand: Tesco, Lotus, CP Freshmark, and Tops Supermarket. Really interesting to see these messaging apps diversifying and figuring out ways that you also see other players nestling around. Uber, the taxi app, has actually done similar tests of, hey, what if we deliver some groceries? Google, Amazon, obviously getting into delivering products to you, delivering groceries and drugstore type items. So this is the first messaging app I've heard that's really getting into this directly, and maybe I missed some, but it's intriguing that there are these sort of overlap areas that all of these apps who don't want to be one-trick ponies are eyeballing as a way to actually continue to increase their bottom line. In a story from the Next Web, the Pirate Bay is back up after being taken down December 9th during a raid on a Swedish data center by local police. The site is at its original domain, has a phoenix image on the front page, and in fact, the first new torrent added contained an image of a phoenix titled "Like a Phoenix, It Rises from the Ashes, the Pirate Bay is back." While the site is up, features are not all back. For instance, RSS feeds are still down. There was a lot of controversy even from, for instance, Sunday, the former owner or founder, co-founder of the Pirate Bay, about whether it should go back up or not. Looks like somebody decided to do it.
Yeah, I'm personally glad to see that it's back up, and not because I use it, of course. I'm not saying I use it.
There's some great Linux ISOs on there.
Oh, exactly. Well, yeah, that's that first place I go for my ISOs, for my Linux ISOs. In my opinion, though, I feel like it's the Pirate Bay and similar sites, like they're kind of this barometer that shows whether content providers and networks are sort of doing the right thing. And I feel like if you can kind of shrink the Pirate Bay down to like statistical insignificance just organically, right? Just by kind of setting prices where they need to be and letting people access content on the devices that they want and those kinds of things, then you're kind of going in the right direction. So I think we need things like the Pirate Bay. I mean, I would never condone stealing content. I mean, I'm a content creator as well. I don't necessarily want people stealing my content, although I don't think I have that much of a problem with it really, but I think it's a really important thing to keep an eye on, to know kind of when you're on the right path to real content distribution.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at the Pirate Bay, and one way, like you say, is that they are trafficking in things that violate laws in large parts of the world, and you don't want to be a party to that if you're a law-abiding citizen, right? On the other hand, they are pointing out very clearly that in an infinitely copyable medium, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to continue to lock down content. Content was locked to a physical form by default. It was very difficult to replicate an LP. It was less difficult to replicate a cassette, and that allowed you to sort of replicate an LP, but it is really ridiculously easy to replicate digital material, even with attempts at digital locks. So I feel like while the Pirate Bay may not be doing it in the most clear-cut legal way, they're, like you say, they're pointing to the fact that, hey, maybe we need a different system for accounting things. And I don't know if the Pirate Bay even thinks that's what they're doing necessarily, primarily, but it is one of the effects that they have.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Napster thought they were doing. I don't think that's what LimeWire thought they were doing. But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's out there and it's sending a signal, right? And I mean, I struggle with this stuff when I legally rent content and take it offline in the car or something, and then I'm told I have to have an internet connection, and I'm just like, this is like, it's not there yet. Like, we're still so far from it being to where consumers need it to be. And I think things like the Pirate Bay, send that signal, loud and clear.
TechCrunch reports that Google's share of the U.S. search market, excluding mobile, dipped below 75% for the first time since July 2008. If you do include mobile, Google's share rose to 78%. So they may be doing less well on the desktop, but the growth area is mobile, and they're doing okay there. Yahoo, however, is doing great, becoming the #2 search engine in the United States, increasing its share of the search market to more than 28% of all searches, including mobile. That's compared to less than 10% in November 2014. The surge is due mostly to Yahoo becoming the default search engine in Firefox, which definitely helped give them a boost up. And there's talk that Google may lose its default search position in the iPhone browser as well. So, here in the United States, Google is facing competition. It'd be interesting to see if this kind of competition will start to hold in other parts of the world where they have 90% plus market share. GigaOM reports that IDC shows tablet sales were down by 3.2% during the holiday quarter compared to last year. This was the first time IDC showed year-over-year decline for worldwide tablet shipments since the market's inception in 2010, only shipping 76 million tablets in Q4. Google's market share is declining. Tablets are declining. It's a new world, folks. Rest of the year's increase balanced the bad Q4 out, though, with tablet sales for the entire 2014 year increasing by 4.4% over 2013, with 229.6 million units shipped. Apple continues to lead the tablet market with a 28.1% share, followed by Samsung, then Lenovo, Asus, and Amazon, although only Lenovo managed to grow in Q4 year over year. We talked about this quite a bit, Christian, last week, and we talked about the fact that, there's lots of reasons why the tablet market is leveling out. I don't think the tablet market's dying. This is just a sign of it maturing. What do you think?
I think we're in a post-tablet era. I think we're in a post-PC era, right? I think there's this an overcorrection, right? This whole idea that we were ever in a post-PC era was a joke. There was a new device out there. It was exciting. People have disposable income. We went out and we bought them, and then we bought them again because we wanted them to be a little thinner and a little faster, and the graphics to be a little bit better. The battery life to be a little bit better. And maybe we bought them again, and then we decided, this one's pretty good. And we really do like our laptops. We really do like our phones because we can put them in our pockets. We like our laptops because they have keyboards and we can get work done on them. We can actually be productive. Whereas tablets are, I think tablets are, if you were to sort of triage, I think they're very low on that list, right? I think they, you can keep them around for several years. What really interests me about this trend is, what does it say about Apple watches? What does it say about smartwatches in general? I mean, phones, you know what? I'm going to buy the latest and greatest phone no matter what. That's just what I do. That's what my friends do. That's kind of the world that we live in and we're accustomed to because of, subsidies and because of, the fact that they're getting better so quickly. But, with things like watches, with things like tablets, with things like the Internet of Things, like we got to think about the fact that we may not be, we may not be refreshing these things every single year like we have been with phones.
And I honestly think that phones are not going to be impervious to that forever, because as we get more, we get off the contract treadmill, so to speak, there becomes less of an artificial reason to upgrade because it starts to cost you, and just the fact that phones are also maturing. I think the reason phones have been resistant to it is partly because of the way they're marketed, and partly because you rely on them more. Tablets are something that phones can now do a lot of. So you've started to move to maybe a 6-inch phone or a 7-inch phone to take the place of a tablet. And it'll be interesting to me to see where the tablet market lands. I think there will be, just like with laptops and desktops, a sort of a general range that it will stay in, and growth will come from adding new markets, not necessarily adding new users within current markets. And people will, eventually wear out their tablet. It'll get old and they'll want to buy a new one. But it won't be, we need to upgrade this thing every year, like you say. I think phones will get there eventually.
Yeah,
and it'll be interesting to see if watches, where they start once they go. We'll talk about that a little more, actually.
So here's a Nexus 6 next to an iPhone 6, and you know what? I have an iPad sitting right there. I never pick it up anymore. This Nexus 6 is my new tablet.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people. Not everybody. Some people like smaller phones, in which case they might have room in their lives for a tablet, but it definitely has had an effect on that.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of pieces from our subreddit I want to highlight. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com is a great place to go and see what other folks in the audience are interested in talking about. I always look at it for a couple of ideas to help us flesh out the lineup. MacBytes sent us the Reuters report that IBM is bringing back annual performance bonuses for its CEO and other top executives despite 11 straight quarters of lower revenue, a 7% drop in 2014 profits, and an 11% decrease in stock performance. IBM CEO Virginia Rometty will get a $3.6 million annual incentive payout for 2014 on top of a base salary of $1.5 million, which increases to $1.6 million in 2015. She's also slated to receive a $5 million award for 2015 and a long-term stock grant worth about $13.3 million, which vests in 2018. She must have met her personal incentive deliverables or her Q targets or OKRs or some such acronym. IBM did not deliver bonuses in 2013 at the request of the executives, but I guess the executives just didn't say anything this year, so they get their bonuses. Metal Freak submitted the lilyputing.com report that Dell will offer Ubuntu installed on its new XPS 13 and Precision M3800 laptops. Linux option will cut the starting price of the M3800 by $100 down to $1,533 US. Machines will ship with Ubuntu release 14.04 installed. That means there will be no out-of-the-box support for the laptop's Thunderbolt port, although that may be addressed with 14.04.2 maintenance release. If you need something even smaller and cheaper, the latest revision to the XPS 13 Ultrabook comes in at $1,189.
That's a cool little machine. I'm hearing pretty good things about it, and I think it's cool that they offer Linux on it as well as Windows. I'm actually really curious how many of those they sell, And part of me, kind of like the pessimist in me, I wonder if that's just sort of one way to kind of keep Microsoft in check a little bit with their licensing prices or something. You know, like, hey, we have an option out here. You know, we're also selling Linux. You know, you don't own 100% of our laptop market. But I wonder how much they actually sell of these.
Yeah, it obviously has to be enough that it's worth continuing to list them, right? But how much of it is leverage and how much of it is adoption is hard to say. And these are enterprise laptops, right? So they only need a couple of clients who say, yeah, we want the Ubuntu versions of these to make it worthwhile, and then they can sell more to other people. It also is a little easier to say, hey, it's the same specs as the Windows version. We just at a certain point in the manufacturing process, we image it with Ubuntu instead of Windows. It's not zero effort, but it's less effort than building a new thing all the way up from scratch.
Yeah.
And that is a look at the headlines. All right, so we talked about the Verge interview with Eric Mijakovsky saying that they are going to move the focus away from apps. They're not saying they're not going to have apps or app support on the Pebble Watch. They're saying that they're going to move past that. While everybody else is still all app focused, they're coming up with something better. And he talks about how 2014 for Pebble was sort of an investment year. They were bulking up their staff and getting ready for this move. Meanwhile, we hear that the Apple Watch is going to ship in April. Tim Cook told that to investors on an earnings call last week. There are stories out today from places like TechCrunch, and I think 9to5Mac broke this story, that special display tables and demo practices will be put in place for Apple Watches, especially the Gold Watch, so that they can keep it charged in a safe where it can't be easily taken. However, people will be allowed to try them on and walk around with them. They will have scales, apparently, so that you won't shave off a little gold while you're walking around or swap it out with a fake. This is really interesting stuff to me, because Apple does look to be using the app model, as most of these watches have, including the Pebble up till now. Christian, you were interested in talking about this in wearables. What is a less app-centric world for a watch user?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question because it's not really clear that tiny screens lend themselves particularly well to apps. And I think that the first thing that these things have to get right is being a watch. They have to be good watches, and I have not seen one yet that's a very good watch. And I've seen a lot of these things. I think that if you think about what a watch does well, it tells time really well. It tells you the date, usually perhaps the day. And that's sort of the baseline, and then you have additional what are traditionally called complications. They don't really call them that in the smartwatch world. Usually, apps are features, but and then so you can glance at the watch and you can get value from it at a glance. And then if you interact with the watch, you can get additional value, and that's whether it's a mechanical watch, an automatic watch, a quartz watch. Regardless, you might have to push buttons, you might have to interact with the pushers to start a chronograph, whatever it is. And I think that what's going to be interesting is to see what these watches can do to sort of bring features up to that really, really high value, accessible level, right? So a really good example is this Vivo Smart that I wear here. I love the Vivo Smart. I love Garmin's line of fitness trackers. And every hour it vibrates. If I haven't moved, if I've been sedentary, it'll vibrate. It'll tell me to get up and move. I get up and I walk around, because I'm sitting at my computer, I'm lost in thought. It's saying, hey, you've been inactive for too long. And it just vibrates. It's on an app. I don't have to interact with it. I didn't have to configure it. It works as easily as the time. So it's become part of my, watch wearing or fitness tracker wearing experience. And I think that's what we need to see. I'm not interested in apps. I'm interested in features and value and in additional benefits of wearing one of these things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I can sort of vaguely understand where Pebble would be coming from there, saying we're going to build in things that just complement your life. And the fitness tracker is a great example. It's a great way to wrap your head about that. You don't have apps on your fitness tracker per se. You have features. You need to be able to have an app ecosystem. In fact, Pebble created a great web-based emulator for developers. They launched it January 22nd called cloudpebble.net. So they're obviously not giving up on developers. Where I start to break down is like, okay, so Pebble could build in some the location-specific things that help. They can build in some ways to notify you of things. But it all ends up going back to apps because I'm thinking of, well, who provides that data? Well, an app provides that data. Maybe that's what they're after here. I have long been very skeptical of the app ecosystem. I feel like it's very locked in. I feel like, hey, you know what? The beauty of the web is that anybody can make a web page and put something up, and the app ecosystem really puts more of a gate there. If Pebble is saying, what if we just make a cloud service that anybody can start up on? It's a GitHub-like repository, and you can put data in there that can push notifications. So it's no longer an app the way we think of a smartphone app. It's more of cloud services pushing into your watch. I could see possibilities start to come there.
Yeah, sort of like the original notification system on iPhone. That's very much how it was structured.
Yeah.
And the it also is, applications are a vulnerability when it comes to platforms, and we can really see that, you know, with BlackBerry, but really, really clearly with Microsoft and with their phones, right? Their phones are great. The hardware is great. I was in an AT&T store over the weekend, and I always ask people, I always interview, I say, you know, how many of these phones have you sold? How many of those phones have you sold? He said he sold about 30 Windows phones last year. In a year, about 30 phones. They're great phones. Everybody loves them, but they don't have any apps. So if Pebble feels as though, you know, Apple and Google are going to take over the application market, you know, traditionally we usually see two platforms emerge, right? People are usually willing to build two things, but three, people usually are looking for one to cut when it comes to three, and Pebble would be the one that would get cut. So it makes a lot of sense, I think, for them to think, you know, let's think beyond the application ecosystem. Let's think about, you know, cloud services. Let's think about value that we can add. It doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean adding an app. And I think you can totally do it. Garmin's done it, right? I mean, Garmin actually just announced an application ecosystem for their new smartwatches, the Fenix and the Vivo Active. And but what's really important about those devices is that you don't need apps. If you get a phone and it doesn't have apps on it, it's worthless to you. You're not going to pick it up. If you buy one of these watches, they're valuable to you right away, and then the apps just augment them. They're just better. I mean, you can, if you want to, you can delve in and get the additional functionality. But I think it's really important for things like Pebble to be super functional right out of the box, and not maybe play that, you know, the traditional application ecosystem game, which they may not win, right? I mean, it's going to be hard going up against Apple and Google.
Yeah, if I had my dream come true, it would be that Pebble says, we're leveraging the internet. We're leveraging the web as our app store now. So anybody, you know, we've got a cloud emulator, so you can see easily how your system will show up on somebody's watch, but otherwise we don't need an app store. Anybody can make something that works with our watch if they want to, integrate it into your existing website and service. That could be really compelling.
Yeah, I really hope that they come up with something interesting. I hope they shake things up a little bit. I know it's strange to say that because we haven't even really started down the path of wearables yet, and to say it's time to shake things up, but in a way I feel like it is, because when you look at the lineup of smartwatches that we have coming, they're not incredibly inspiring to me. I mean, I'm going to stick with them. I'm going to get an Apple Watch, and I'm going to try it and all that, and I'm not an Apple Watch hater. But at the same time, if you look at what Apple builds a whole bunch of the same device in different form factors, right? They build, you know, if you look at the phones and the tablets and now the watches, it's sort of the same thing, just different form factors. And Pebble is doing something different. That bright screen, I'm tired of all these bright screens in my life. They're not good for watches, right? Those, you know, the backlit screens are actually not good for watches. They're not good in movie theaters. They're not good in restaurants. They're embarrassing when they light up whenever you move your arms around. And having things like e-ink, having things like front-lit displays, I'm really glad to see, you know, someone out there who's competing with completely new ideas, and I hope Pebble continues to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Apple does. Apple does not break new ground. Apple moves in the middle of the pack, and somebody has to break the new ground, and Pebble's been doing it, so I'm glad to see that they're going to try to stay ahead of it. I was talking to Brian Brushwood about this because he's a huge Pebble user. He's a big fan of it, and he says that he doesn't ever want to wear a smartwatch when he's shooting video for shows he does, like Scam School, because it will look dated by the time it gets produced, right? Especially if he's doing something like a TV show, he does hacking the system. That may take 6 months to show up, and by then a whole bunch of new watches will come out and be like, why is he wearing that old watch? So he puts on kind of a dumb watch, essentially, when he does these shows. but he's so into his Pebble watch and the notifications, and he's so annoyed when he has to actually pull his phone out to look at a notification or check the time or do something like that, that he says he'll wear both watches, the dummy watch and the smart watch, all the way up until it's time to shoot, and then he'll take the Pebble off and stick it in his pocket. So there's definitely a growing base of people who get that, like, I know what I need it for. I know what notifications I need it for.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him about his experience with Pebble. I think that's really quite interesting to think about the dated nature of it. There's an interesting kind of pattern in Swiss watches where the design is actually changed very infrequently as a feature, because if you're going to spend several thousands of dollars on a watch, you don't want it to be out of fashion next season or in a couple of seasons. They're sold as devices that you hand down to your, in your family, and so therefore they need to remain aesthetically relevant for generations. So when if you're only selling, let's just say $200 smartwatches, that's not a big deal, right? You get a new one every few years, that's fine. Who cares? When you're selling a watch that has to be weighed when you return it, when you're selling a watch that you have to be guarded when you try it on, you're going to want that thing to stay nice for a little while. You're not going to want it to look like an old iPhone after a couple of generations and be embarrassed to pull your sleeve up and look at it. So I'm really interested in seeing how Apple solves this problem. And my theory is that you're going to be able to take your watch in, and they're gonna sort of update the insides of it without actually changing the case.
Pull out the internals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, version 2 will be like that, so they can get all the early adopters money, and then
and I'll be a sucker. I'll buy one, so I'll be one of those suckers.
All right, let's take a look at the pick of the day. It comes from Tom Cydia. He says, one of my favorite apps is Windscape, another weather app, but not like any other he's seen. It gathers wind speed data and temps from around the globe and simulates the info with little moving dots. Very cool looking. You can zoom in and around the globe and see typhoons, storms, polar vortexes, who's hot and who's not, literally, like by temperature. It's 99 cents, and if you're a weather nerd, you like science, you might want to check it out. So take a look at it. It's called Windscape, and you can just search for it in the App Store. Thank you, Tom, for that.
I'll use any weather app that gets us past the winter as quickly as possible here on the East Coast, so I'll try it.
All right. Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Got a couple of messages of the day. First one is a call from Rob in the UK. He has a note. We mentioned the GoPro being attached to the NHL players during the All-Star game, and it'll be on the refs in other games the rest of this year. We also mentioned that it has been used in other sports, and Rob knows one of those sports.
G'day there, Tom. It's Rob Wells here over in beautiful downtown Maidenhead in UK. Yeah, just wanted to comment. You mentioned about the hockey guys going with like a referee camera. Well, rugby's had that since about 2013. They use a Contour 2 head cam. And it's really made a difference, especially to the discussions that happen when scrums collapse and sort of like when people are being disciplined. Anyway, thanks for a great show, and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Contour 2. Those are those little lipstick cam looking things. They're like $100, $200 and up. So interesting to note that the officials in rugby have been wearing those. Thanks for the call. Appreciate that. And finally, Andrew, who is a co-executive producer on the show, by the way, had an infuriating experience related to copyright he wanted to share with us. He collects original comic art, has a collection of scanned material he keeps on a USB drive for both archival and insurance purposes. He usually goes into his local Staples and gets 11 by 17 scans with no problem until yesterday. He went into Staples, asked to get an 11 by 17 scan, and the person helping him said no problem, started to take out his latest purchase, and then the helpful person said, "Did you do this art?" He replied, "No, I collect original art." He said, "I can't scan this unless you have permission from the original artist because it is copyrighted material." And then Rich said, "I don't need permission. I am well within my rights to scan this for archival and insurance purposes." The employee answered with, "But how do I know that? we're cracking down because we have issues with people copying and scanning copyrighted works and making money off it. So corporate is cracking down. Anyway, the short version is he points to the policy, and Rich says, well, if I came in with legal documents from a company, that I don't work with, but I need to make copies of them for backup purposes, I don't necessarily own the copyright. The company does, but would you stop me from doing that? He's basically saying, look, I understand that this guy was just doing his job and that's the new policy, but it was a very surreal exchange. I guess what surprised me the most was the assumption that I was going to do something illegal. We've moved into that excess of caution realm with copyright, where even legal things that you can do, and he's definitely got a fair use reason for copying that art. He owns that piece of art, and he has the right to make a backup copy for purposes of his own use. He's not going to sell them. And I get that a company's like, with the climate the way it is, we're just not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. It's time to buy your own scanner. I used to, it's funny because like when I was a kid in high school, and I have to actually go to the library to do reports, we would have these issues where we would, we'd be photocopying pages out of books, and there was a limit, and you could get in trouble for photocopying too many pages. And it's like, man, I'm in high school, I'm doing a report, I'm trying to get a good grade, and you're harassing me over this. I mean, this kind of thing is it's just obnoxious.
Well, thank you for joining me on the show today, Christian. Christian, you've got a new project, darkmatter.fm. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I have a podcast that I launched. I have 3 episodes up. It's a technology podcast, but it does not compete with DTNS. I would not do that. It's sort of a combination of it's sort of the exploration of technology through storytelling. So it's there's sort of produced episodes. It's not sort of tech news and stuff like that. So that's at darkmatter.fm. And my new novel comes out next month, which is the sequel to Containment. So it's called Equinox, and it'll actually be out. They're going to actually launch it on the Equinox, which I believe is March 20th. So that's what I got going.
All right, keep an eye out for that. You can go buy Containment and read it now if you haven't already. Get yourself all ready for the new one.
You're all ready. That's right. That's right.
You can follow Christian on Twitter, twitter.com/Cantrell. That's Cantrell. And again, that new project is darkmatter.fm. Thanks to everybody who's been helping us out on Patreon, 4,793 folks who are my boss. And you are getting us closer and closer all the time. We're above the $14,000 mark, headed towards $16,000, so that we can bring on 2 new regular contributors. The idea is to have regular contributors slotted in and then bring in more segment guests to talk about various issues. We'll still have guest hosts like Christian on as well, but it's just a way to try to do a little more with what we've got. And we know we've got the listeners out there. And we know a lot of you get value out of the show, and if you can afford to give a little value back, that's what we're asking. Patreon.com/AceDetect, or just go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Don't forget you have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call, 512-59-DAILY, and listen to the show live at alphageekradio.com. They've got a new Roku app. They've got Amazon Echo support. You got to check it out. Our website's dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Boom.
All right. Good
And that's
stuff.
the show.
Man, that show goes fast.
Thank you, Christian. That was great.
Yeah.
What's that?
Thanks. It's funny. It's like it seems to go so much faster when you're actually like participating in it.
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of just having to think about what to say instead of listening to what to say. Maybe makes the time go faster. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean I listen to the show every day. I listen to it. Usually I'm at the gym or I'm like out running or whatever, and it like lasts for a good portion of the workout. And this just seems like it flies by when you're actually thinking about it and trying to make the show happen. But yeah, I hope I didn't, man. I could just talk about wearables forever. I hope I didn't like go over time there.
Oh no, not at all. This year we're taking some of the feedback that we've gotten from people to try to let the conversations end when they should end, because sometimes people felt like maybe we were rushing things. I never felt like we were actually rushing things, but I like just like having the conversation until we've said what we want to say. I think if it's of interest to us, it's probably of interest to the audience.
Yeah. There's so much going on in that space, and I'm so excited to see. One thing I didn't mention was that I took my family to Disney World over the holidays, and it's like Disney World's like this great. It's like this great place to like see what to get out of your bubble and see like what America is doing. And I was shocked how many smartwatches I saw. I couldn't believe.
I was shocked at what America was doing. Really? So you saw a bunch of smartwatches. What kinds usually? Were they Android Wear?
I saw a pretty large variety, but a lot of Pebbles. And Pebble just stole their millionth watch. I mean, that is a huge accomplishment. I was at Google I/O 2 years ago, and I was talking to some Google folks. This is right before they announced Android Wear, and we were all kind of predicting the death of Pebble because Android Wear is coming out, Apple's going to come out with their watch, and everyone's just like, it's over for Pebble. And the more I use these things, the more I realize there's room. There's a lot of room for these people. Because they're fashion accessories, so you want a variety. You don't want them all to be the same. The screen on the Pebble is really, really good. Much more interesting, I think, than a bright OLED display. So I think we're really just getting into it. I think there's a lot of potential for variety.
Cool.
My wife got a watch for Christmas as a work present. She works at Google, so she got I think she got the LG.
The round one?
I see her pick it up every once in a while, and want to use it, but she was never really a watch person to begin with, and I think that's, if anything, that's the stumbling block. Because you're absolutely right about the number of people who want watches. Obviously, a number of people have bought them. You can't sell a million otherwise. But then, everybody wants a phone. It took a while to convince that, but everybody wants a phone. Some people want 2 phones. I don't know if you can convince everybody that they want a watch or not.
Yeah.
That may
Or
be the
do
limiting
they
factor there.
And that's the other question is, do they want a phone and a tablet and a laptop and a desktop and a watch? It's like how many things? So I don't know.
That is a very good question. That's something I didn't get into, but that's a super relevant question because you have to babysit these things, right? You have to update them, but the worst thing is you have to charge them. And so the Apple Watch, I think everyone's pretty much understanding now that you'll charge it every night. I mean, that's pretty much what Apple said, and we understand that's what you do with smartwatches. So now I got to charge my tablet, my phone, and my watch every night, and then I have to make sure my laptop is charged before I go to meetings. That's getting ridiculous. Like
It's
that's
getting to be like a half-time job.
It seriously is, and they all use different chargers. That's the problem. The Apple Watch is going to use a different charger. It has that sort of magnetic charger. So the other thing about these screens, the front-lit screens, is that this watch I charge once a week, and it's I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to babysit it. It just updates by itself. And no, I mean I can't play Crossy Roads on it or something like that. But I don't have to babysit it. I don't have to do anything. I just put it on and it works and it does what I want it to do. That's something that these smartwatches have not gotten right yet. In my humble opinion.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons Brian likes the Pebble, is every time he hears about a new watch and they say, oh, it's a 24-hour battery life, he's like, nope.
Yeah.
I have to think about charging it. Forget it.
Yeah. No, I agree. You gotta, every time you travel, you gotta bring a different charger. It's ridiculous.
Although if we were in Europe, everything could be standardized as a USB charger because they forced that to be the law.
Oh, did they really?
I
didn't know that.
For phones.
Oh,
but I'm sure they do the same thing for watches if they get popular enough.
Yeah.
Cold fusion. That's the answer.
Yeah, some kind of battery tech, right?
That
really is.
I was
really
joking, but I just saw that movie the other day on cable. What was it called? The Saint. Terrible Val Kilmer remake of The Saint that I really love in the way that you love bad movies.
The Roger Moore Saint?
Yeah, so the one with the dynamic chemistry of Val Kilmer and Elizabeth Shue, but Cold Fusion was the plot point. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, well, when you have a problem that you can't solve, like what'll solve it? Oh, I know, it's cold fusion.
Well, that's why, that's why, like, the traditional watches are not out of it. And I read these articles all the time. The Swiss are not out of the game. Casio and Seiko and Citizen are not out of the game. Casio makes some of the most sophisticated timepieces in the world. They make GPS and atomic calibration modules that all run off of a tiny solar cell that you can't even identify as such. And you never have to charge them. They're always, they're tough. I mean, the smartwatches, I mean, people are going to drop them on the bathroom floor and shatter them all the time. And if you've paid, $3,000 for a gold iPhone or for a gold Apple Watch and you knock it on the floor and shatter it, you're going to be pissed off. The synthetic sapphire shatters really easily. I think that there's still a huge opportunity for a bunch of people to create a lot of different watches. There's never been, when you look at the platform wars, you usually have two platforms out there that are successful. That's never happened with watches. You never had two watch brands, right? There's always been dozens and dozens and dozens because they're fashion first. And so I think that people like Pebble are going to be around. I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago, but I think that's what's going to happen now.
Cool. Do you need a title, or did you picked one already?
I did. I secretly picked one.
It's okay.
No
I sensed that was happening.
And then I went and I messed up the edit.
It's just been a day for you, huh? It's kind of a day for Tom.
Who watches the watches?
Yeah, I really like that.
Is that a Dark Redeemer one? Is that right?
That's good. That works.
I mean, give me a Watchmen reference every day, and I'll be happy. Although I will say, I did like Windows Gets a Piece of Pie, just because I like pie.
Yeah, I love pie. I ate 2 pies this weekend.
I'm thinking about going to get a slice of pie like pretty soon after this.
Where can you get a good slice of pie over there?
Upars.
Where is it, in the farmer's market?
Yeah, it's just a little bit down at the other end of the farmer's market, and I always walk by and I'm like, today's the day I will not eat pie. I'm not eating pie today. I'm not eating pie. But we just talked about pie, so I might.
I bought. Here's a secret. I will reveal to the world for the first time. I bought 2 pies for Super Bowl Sunday because I had a couple of friends coming over to watch the game, one of whom actually cares about football a lot. And I ate one of them on Saturday before they came.
So there was only 1 pie for the guests. Classic.
Yes.
I like it.
Sorry, guys, only 1 pie.
Only
They
one
never
pie.
knew. They were like, "Do you have anything sweet?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got pumpkin pie." I'm like, "Oh great."
Nobody ever eats more than 1 pie.
There was also a
That's the
peach
rule.
pie yesterday. Too late.
So peach is the one you ate, huh?
Yeah.
That's a good pie. That's on my list
Yeah.
as maybe the pie I'm going to get.
I would have gotten cherry. Cherry's my favorite. Cherry and pumpkin nose to nose. Depends on the season. But they didn't have any cherry pie at the store.
I do like some sour cherry pie with a crumble. I don't know what you call it, but it's sort of like a crumbly, crunchy topping. There's a place called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a
Folks,
place called Mom's Pie around here.
This
that makes those.
conversation is not helping the not get pie today.
It's already done. You're already getting pie. We might as well celebrate it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're right.
Just give over.
I
to
do
it.
need pie because it's going to power me through this. Look at this guy.
Galaxy. What do you have there? A Tab.
It's a Galaxy Tab S, and I'm going to learn Android on it. It's very exciting.
Well, you are
Have
going
you
to
opened
learn Samsung's
No,
version
I'm
of
waiting to
Android.
open it. Like, I feel.
Just gonna learn TouchWiz. Wait.
Yeah, I feel like it's my job to open it on some sort of video thing. So that's what I was going to talk to you about before your camera broke, was what should I do with this box that has not yet been opened?
You could open it now.
Oh, that would be easy because then I wouldn't have to film it. All right, here we go. Wait, let's see if we can. I've never done an unboxing before. Any tips?
There's lots of
Just
firsts
pull
here.
the stuff out and say what you're pulling out.
Okay, so
Pretty easy.
I have here a Samsung Galaxy Tab S, which I'm going to start keeping a journal about what it's like to have Android in my life. And also, my other thing, I think we talked about this, but my other thing was, do I need a tablet in my life? because I have an iPad and it's pretty great for reading scripts on it, but otherwise it like legitimately just sits on a shelf. Okay, so here's this nice cloth bit of business. Whoop. And
There's like a screen wiper.
yeah, screen wiper. It says Galaxy Tab S. Oh, I like the color. Look at this. Thanks, Tom. It's that neat gold. It's hard to see. It fades out a little bit. It's that cool gold thing. Here's my tablet.
So does it have a stylus?
Let's see. Let's find out. I'm going to carefully set this down briefly. This is sort of hard to do. I don't know how Lamar does this.
All those fashion video bloggers.
No, I know.
I guess those are slightly less fragile, but
Charger.
still, yeah.
The whole
New
videos.
kind of charger. Yeah. Oh, and then, but this is just standard USB, so that's nice. That's a change from the other. I'm not feeling a stylus in here, but maybe I haven't looked carefully enough. I see a nice little quick start guide that's like 800 small pages long. And then no stylus. Stylus comes separately. Am I gonna want a stylus? I haven't even gotten this far.
You mean an S Pen?
Oh, sorry, an S
A
Pen.
Spen?
A
Spen.
yeah.
Do I have to spend on my spend?
I
don't know.
You probably won't. I mean, if I think that, so I have a Surface Pro right behind me here. The stylus is super cool on it. It works really well, but unless you draw, unless you really want to write things by hand, I don't think it's really. I mean, I would certainly try it before buying an S Pen.
I draw once a year apparently. When Len
So
goes
far,
away.
that's your pace.
So far, once a year. Oh, look at this. This is so thin and phablet-y. It's like a little bigger than a phablet, right? So it's not quite the below 5.7 that is a phablet, correct? I don't know.
Yeah, it's an 8.4 inch.
So it's
a phablet is 6 inches or down. Well, honestly, a phablet is it's a phone and a tablet. I guess if they made a 10-inch phone, that would be a phablet. But yeah, generally it's 6 inches or below for the phones.
So yeah, so I guess I have to charge this a little bit because unless I don't think it comes pre-charged, does it?
Oh, what kind of unboxing is this? You gotta boot it up.
I gotta boot it up
Yeah.
too? Good gracious.
Yeah,
All right,
definitely. Definitely.
All right, hold on.
Then we can
Can I
see
just-
how much juice it has. I'm always surprised with how much it actually has.
Yeah. You know what the dirty secret is? I don't think I know how to turn on one of these things because it was like a double tap or
Press the
something?
button on the right, I think, and hold
The
it
top
in.
right? Oh no, the right.
Yeah.
There's a button here. Hold on.
So Tom, you use you have one of the new Nexus tablets, right?
I do have a Nexus 9. I used to use a
Turned
Nexus
on.
7 for all my reading.
Yay!
I love that sound.
Yay!
That sound means success.
It's
And that sound
pretty.
comes right as I'm publishing the podcast.
Success!
Hooray!
All right. We did it.
We did it.
English. U.S. Well, you've lost me.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, good night.
This is Jenny. And actually, yeah, I'm out of the post, so we're good.
Cool.
Good timing.
This is so exciting.
Hey, thanks again, Christian, for hanging around, too. This was really fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, sure thing. Nice chatting. Enjoy your tablet and your pie, Jenny.
Oh, yeah. Pie and tablet. It's a great place in Pasadena.
Yeah, can't go wrong. All right, guys.
Goodbye, video people.
Take care. Bye-bye.